Hello folks, in this video I'm going to be taking a look at the At Games Sega Megadrive. Now, this system has been out for a while, so you may be wondering, why am I now taking a look at this? I've had it for a number of years, and I basically use it as my sort of Mega Drive console, and you may be thinking, well, that's not the best way to do it. You should have an original Mega Drive system. And I would largely agree with you, or perhaps one of the analog systems there, but they're very, very expensive. Now, this system here can be had for between £80 and £120, which is, of course, more money than just buying an original Mega Drive. But there are some benefits to this. Now, let's talk about the build quality first of all. It's very light. As I'm sure you can imagine, inside of here is just a little board that does emulation, basically. But one big point is you can put your own cartridges in. So it does have built-in games, and I'll show you them, but also you can play your own Mega Drive cartridges, which is quite a big deal. Plus, they license the actual design for the system from Sega, so it actually looks like a Mega Drive, albeit a bit smaller. I do need to figure out a way to get rid of that, though. I don't really like that on there, because without that, it actually kind of looks like a proper Mega Drive. So, the buttons, positive action on there, feels okay, not particularly expensive. This is more of a switch than the original one, but still feels all right. They haven't tried to emulate the headphone socket there, which is slightly disappointing, but you can use original Mega Drive controllers on there if you want. That's the side, kind of standard. On the rear here is where the convenience really comes into it. So it actually has a HDMI socket. That is extremely convenient because hooking up some of these older systems to a modern TV is not as convenient as you may think it is, especially things like an N64, and I've done a video on that which you can look at on my channel. So that's the little vents on the side, and they haven't tried to emulate the slots for the Mega CD or anything either. I understand that sort of cost concerns are an issue. So that's the build quality of the system. As I said, you can put your Mega Drive cartridges in there. I've chosen to put Mercs in there. So that was a look at the system itself. The controllers I will look at next, and then we'll have a little look at actually how the system plays games. So this is one of the two controllers that you get with the system. They are wireless / infrared. In terms of design, not too bad. The D-pad isn't awful, although the light flashes every single time you press a button. Don't know why they did that. You get a rewind button, menu, which brings you back to the main menu like of the system, a start button, and you get the 6 buttons on the front, as well as you can toggle player 1 or player 2 depending on which controller you got. Now, one thing I really don't like about this is they've gone with the screw to close up the battery compartment there. I know this is probably a safety issue. They probably think it's going to be kids buying this system, but they are wrong, because it'll probably be mostly adults buying this system because of the nostalgia of it. But overall, I do like the design of the controller, and it is a marked improvement on At Games' previous efforts. So overall, the controller itself, I'd probably give a solid sort of 8 out of 10. It's got a nice feel to it. It's actually not a bad controller, and with the batteries in there, it's got a decent amount of heft. So next, let's look at the system menu itself and some of its eccentricities, should we say. So this is the main menu you'll find on the system when you first switch it on. So, strangely, if you want to go up and down the menu, you have to press B and C. So, C goes down, B goes up. It's a strange way of doing things. I don't really understand why you couldn't just use the D-pad, but there you go. So, what do you get on here? Well, you get the cartridge slot. It doesn't give you the artwork of the game. Maybe that was too much, or there's licensing issues, I don't know. But that's the cartridge slot, that's what's in there. Mercs, so I identified that correctly. These are my recent games that I played on it. So these are what they call all your Sega games. I'm not sure if all of them were actually made by Sega or not, but they call it Sega games on there. So you can scroll through them. There's actually not a bad selection. Eastwat is a good game. Golden Axe is good, and you get 1, 2, and 3 on there. Cktgf's alright. Rice Star is brilliant. If you want to buy that game physically, you're talking sort of £100 probably now. You've got Sonic and Knuckles, which is good. It's not the most intuitive menu ever. I think they could have moved some of these down and actually included 3 rows on there. but not the end of the world. No Sonic 3 for some reason. You get Sonic 1, 2 and Sonic and Knuckles. Sonic 3D is nice to have on there. Super Thunder Black was one of my favourite arcade games growing up, so I'm quite happy to see that on there. And some more obscure games like Sonic Drift, which are actually like Game Gear games. So also you get of course Virtual Fighter 2, which is cool to have on there, as well as the Vectorman games. So you've probably all seen games like Sonic playing on these systems. So let's go ahead and try something like Super Thunder Black. So we press start and the game should just load up. There we have it, Sega. Classic music. Let's straight into the game. So far, the emulation seems okay. Obviously it's not as good as the actual system playing the game. Or perhaps one of the analog systems from that company. But let's have a look at input lag. So maybe a tiny bit, but in all honesty, it's not terrible. Now obviously it's been a long time since I played this game on original hardware. So perhaps the sound is slightly off. I mean, you tell me in the comments whether you think the sound is off. I forgot just how hard this game actually is. Perhaps nostalgia plays more of a part in how good I think this game is than what it actually is. So if I press the menu button now, that takes me back to this menu here, which annoyingly, if I press down, seems to immediately pull me out of the game. And then you have to restart the whole game. But if I press menu, yeah, down just does quick game, up does the scan line filter. Again, it's a strange way of organising these menus, but at least it's got save game slots and stuff built in, so that's good. So I think I'd be remiss if I didn't put a Sonic game on. But first of all, let's have a quick look at Virtual Fighter 2 for the Sega Megadrive. These menus are quite obtuse. Right, let's get back to the beginning. There we go. Then scroll across, and then we start it up. So the menu system in this isn't amazing, but the selection of games actually isn't terrible. I mean, obviously it looks nothing like the arcade ones because it doesn't have polygons, but I've got to admit the floor does actually kind of look polygonal in a way, and the characters do look like what they're supposed to look like. And I've got to say, in terms of gameplay, oh, well that was rubbish, wasn't it? In terms of gameplay, this is not terrible. If you couldn't get a 32X to play Virtual Fighter on, or you couldn't afford a Sega Saturn, this probably isn't a bad way of doing it. There you go, have that, mate. Okay, so we're going to come out of that game now, and now we're going to see how it plays a cartridge-based game, which is good. So, the music, I'll be honest with you, I'm not as much of a purist with these things as some people, but I'll be honest, this doesn't sound wildly different to what I had on the original Megadrive that I used to play this game on. Oh, apparently I had no lives left. I forgot how hard this game is. I mean, I'm not seeing too many strange issues on the screen. Perhaps some of the shadows are flickering slightly. I can't remember if it did that on the original system or not. God, it's hard to stay away from these guys. I must have played this on an easier difficulty. I honestly don't remember it being this difficult. They just seem to want to run into me constantly. I don't know if that's a tactic people use in war, just walk into people and then they instantly die. But you also don't get unlimited ammunition in war, so there we go. So, in my opinion, this plays pretty excellently. And if you're looking for a way to get into retro gaming, and you actually want to use original cartridges, this plays pretty good, to be honest with you. I'm sure there's people out there that would say it's not faithful in terms of colour reproduction or whatnot, or that the scan lines kind of ruin it. But let's turn the scan lines off, and see how that looks. I've got to be honest, I prefer it with the scan lines. It does feel more authentic to me. But this still plays fine without them. Maybe it even plays slightly faster because there's less processing going on. Right, let's go ahead and pop those scan lines back on though, because I do prefer them. Give me that health pack, quick! Now I need it. There we go. Right, let's pop them back on. Yeah, I do prefer it with them. Uh-oh, a Harrier jet. Who'd have thought he'd fight a Harrier jet? Let's drop some bombs on him. Because otherwise, there we go. He's so excited, he's running around in circles. Look at him go. Go ahead and have a look at some of the other games on here. So you've got a specific section for Mortal Kombat. I was never huge on Mortal Kombat games myself, but I do see the appeal of them. And you've got a special section for the Sonic games, and then what they call bonus games, which are basically rubbish mini games. But, you know, it's on there for free, so it's no harm really, is it? So, I mean, I know some people would disagree and say Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is better than Sonic 1, and do you know what? Objectively, it probably is, but I love Sonic 1, so I'm going to go ahead and start up Sonic 1, because I can't do a Mega Drive review without that amazing. Again, the sounds pretty spot on. And another benefit of a system like this is because it's HDMI, it can actually go over your AV receiver, and you can actually have the sound. You can have Sonic the Hedgehog sound in surround sound all around you, upscale, mind you. Yes. So one thing I would say is perhaps the sound of the rings is now what it should be, and maybe more tinny than what I remember it being. Perhaps the hardware in this is based off of the code on a Mega Drive 2, where the sound system wasn't quite as good. Now, this bonus level genuinely fills me with a little bit of anxiety, because I remember how hard I found this as a kid, and only my mum playing on this could actually do all these bonus levels. Oh, just the music. It's just, I mean, it's anxiety-inducing stuff, and I'm dead. There you go. Honestly. Almost no points. Well done to me. So there we go, that's been my review of the At Games 16-bit Sega Megadrive. I've shown you a couple of the games, what the controllers are like and whatnot. Overall, out of 10, I'd have to give this system probably, I'd say probably an 8 out of 10. Or maybe a 7, depending on sort of if you like these style of controllers and whatnot, but I think I'd have to give this an 8 out of 10 personally. The only things that could elevate it higher, really, is a little bit more faithfulness to the original console design. For example, putting on a headphone port, even if it doesn't connect to anything, or maybe making it look like you could put a Sega CD with this. What I'd really love would be if they sold a mock-up Sega CD to go along with this system that you can just pop underneath. But I don't think there's the market for that. But overall, I think the sound of it is fine. It plays the games well. I haven't really noticed much input lag, even though it's a wireless controller. It's a pretty good system. And if you're looking to get into retro gaming and you find it a bit sort of you find yourself a bit overwrought with trying to figure out the original systems, because there's multitude of Mega Drive systems out there, different revisions and whatnot, and you're trying to think, oh, how do I connect it to a modern TV? Does my TV have the connections? What will the picture be like? This is not a bad way to go. Now, it's kind of hard to find them sometimes now, but you can find them used or even brand new, and the most expensive one I found was £130. But if you're really looking to get into these games and you want an easy way to do it, but still be able to collect some Mega Drive games and play them on there, this is a good way to go, in all honesty. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please remember to hit that like button, leave me a comment, subscribe, and check out my Patreon if you so wish. I want to say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.